Okay, here's what we're going to talk about today. I had a session with my life coach, which is fabulous. I always get great stuff out of it. Highly recommend having someone to talk to. Just having someone to hold space for you, to reflect with you, to ask you the right questions can be so valuable. So, the topic that kind of came up as a theme in a way was that I was finding a need to change my operating system. And so when I say operating system, it's like, yes, it's coping mechanisms, yes, it's defense mechanisms, but more so, it's like the way that I adopted to navigate life with. So it's basically a coping mechanism that started in infancy, right? And I'm needing to upgrade from how I've navigated life with that being the case to how I know I can navigate life with what I know now, with where I've progressed to. And so it's a matter of like stepping out of this comfort zone, but also like recognizing and dealing with any of the things that pose a challenge to that. So, for instance, as I step out and want to do a certain project, which would require me to be more kind of out there, be more seen, I'm faced with like insecurity about like what that means, and will I take on too much, and do I really want to have to deal with people, because like as many people who appreciate it, there may be just as many who don't appreciate it, and do I really want to put myself in that position, and all those kind of things. And also insecurity about my beauty came up for me, and I know that's a pride issue, and it's something that I've been kind of working through for a while at different levels, but that's certainly one that would come up for me now that I'm ready to kind of step up out of this kind of stage that I've been at into something that would put me in a position of being more seen and more of at a risk of being targeted. And I've already been targeted on the level where I'm at. And, although I came out of it just fine and learned a lot through the process, it wasn't pleasant. It wasn't like, more of that, please. It was kind of like, well, that was unfortunate that someone would actually spend their energy on that. And like, why is that in my reality kind of stuff? So, with that said, I don't know if one of these piles is going to be pertaining to my own issues as well, but again, these are going to be general messages, information to reflect on about where you can balance out some energy to help you upgrade your operating system. And when we look at the operating system, right, ideally we would go through life with faith, with trust in life, and that it's all working out for us, right? And where we might be coming from is a place of lack. There isn't enough. I need to do this to be loved, and I need to do this to succeed, and I need to have this much interest in what I'm doing before I find it valid, or I need to achieve this before I feel like I'm worthwhile, or any of the limitations or lack mindset that we find ourselves in is now being pushed to a place where we can upgrade into operating in life with that growth mindset, understanding that life is all happening for us, that any challenges that we face are there actually so that we can creatively welcome in a solution, and that we are constantly growing and evolving, and so we can trust that as a process, that life isn't out to get us, that actually this is an experience that we're having always towards the highest good of ourselves and all. So what can we do to live with those premises? You know, because you live a much different life when you're trusting life, right? Like, if I'm trusting life, then whatever hiccup I face, whatever challenge comes my way, it's not going to throw me off course, put me in a upheaval, have me upset or wanting to give up or lash out at somebody else or blame somebody else, or, you know, any of those things that can really like hold us back or sidetrack us. Instead, it's going to be more like, oh, well, here's an opportunity for me to what, right? Like what? Show myself that I show up for myself. Find a creative solution for something that is a problem that not only I face, but other people face. Be an example to my children of how to handle certain challenges. Like, if we just use the operating system that tells us that we can trust this, then the experience is much more pleasant. And so that's what I'm talking about when I talk about let's upgrade your operating system. So that's what the reading is about. One moment, I'm just gonna like deal out and pull some cards. I'll probably make 3 piles, but use your own intuition to decide if one or more of these will have a message for you. And I'm gonna just kind of pause and then like deal out the cards. And if my connection was high speed and I could easily upload a bigger file, I would probably just deal out on camera. But in the interest of making my file the smallest I possibly can so that I can upload it in less than 2 days, I'm just going to pause it and come back to you. Okay, so I did quite a thing here, and I got a lot of cards for each pile. But I wanted to say this because this is something that came out. My life coach actually said it in reference to something else. Oh, in reference to a reading she got. And then I kind of picked it up as it's relevant for every reading I've ever got. And then I wanted to kind of pass it along to the readings I give. And here's what it is. Oh, what was under my fingernail there? Don't know. Okay. And what it was is the statement, whether it's true or not, I got some stuff to ponder in it. And I feel like that's relevant for every general reading, right? So I've consumed a lot of pick a card readings online over the years, and there have been times where I did it more or less and was drawn to certain readers or kind of repelled by certain readers for different reasons at different times. But mostly, whatever they're saying, if they're telling me a story about what's going to be happening in my life, almost never it happened. But at the time that it was a reading that I was drawn to, it was relevant for me to kind of chew on that piece of information, right? And I want to say that, like, when it comes to predicting the future, it would be hard for a reader to do that at this point because everything's so changeable right now. And you can change any prediction made just by observing that prediction, you know? So it doesn't scare me or make me feel like those readers weren't quality readers by the fact that their predictions didn't come to fruition. I still have this appreciation for the information because that information, if I'm able to rectify a piece of energy that I'm chewing on because somebody else brought it to my attention for me to reflect on, that's valuable to me, right? I'm processing a lot of information on a day-to-day basis, and that's not always coming to me through the experiences I'm having. If I'm consuming readings online, then it's coming to me through those readings. So in actuality, you can work out a lot of stuff just through having a reading, which could make it so that you don't have to live something out, because that would be the other way your attention would be brought to a piece of energy or an experience to work through, right? So I really wanted to preface this reading with that, and I'll probably add that to my description box, that whether this is true or not, that you can consider it just information to reflect on, that it's something to ponder. And I think it can be really worthwhile when you look at it that way. And I thought it was interesting that when I added to these piles, the top word can kind of be put with this. So if you feel drawn to more than one, absolutely follow your curiosity. But Folus and sixth house with when. So when am I going to be illuminated on this thing through my day-to-day life? And then driven with where. Where am I being driven to? And then past, how long? 5 weeks. 5 weeks into the past. So those may or may not be relevant. You don't have to change your choice based on what I've said. It's just some added information that could draw you to some pile with your curiosity. And we're going to get started with, this is pick number 1, pick number 2, pick number 3. Let's get started with pick 1. So you chose when. Here's your reading. We're looking at where your operating system can be upgraded. Let's just lay some of these cards out, okay? I feel like I'm going to want some light. Confetti, rainbow, flamingo, and bees. So whatever we're going to be looking at, you're ready for it, and you enjoy breaking through to things that have been limiting you. You're really probably ready to be creative with whatever you learn about yourself always. Your situation might be very much tied to another person. I'm going to just put my glasses on at this point. Cosmic ancestors, seed the light by staying grounded. So it's kind of like your ancestors are invested in you upgrading this for your whole family line. I think you definitely do feel divinely guided, and if you don't know that, you certainly are divinely guided. How does this old operating system affect the way you relate to people? You might find yourself quite a skeptic. I'm going to look at the book for these cards right now. So in the past, it was like you had a lot of options. You were trying to make choices and decide which direction to go in. So in this old operating system, you feel a lot of free will in there. And now you're perhaps in a time period of feeling more ready to break free and ready to kind of stand out, be different, and overcome any obstacle. And in the future, when you step out of this into the new operating system, you're going to find yourself really busy, right? Because then there's going to be a whole new set of things to learn. It's like starting fresh, right? It's like going back to school after the summer when you start fresh in all your classes and you're kind of learning new things. Unless you have one of those teachers that wants you to review everything from last year. But that's not the case here. Okay. What is some of the contributing factors to the old operating system? I think you felt really comfortable and you were successful in the operating system as you've been living it. Which is an interesting thing because it means that the only thing left to do to master it is to be able to leave it behind, which means you're kind of graduating from it, right? So you can celebrate how far you've come, and maybe you even feel really content in it because you did work hard to get there and things are going well. You've achieved a lot to get to where you are. So these are just going to be overlapping. I'm going to have to move them around as I need to. I think you really do have a good foundation where you are. You trust life. You trust that you can handle yourself in the situations that you're in. And you also have the ability to work with other people. There's other people that know what to do, that you can work together with. There's assistance where you need it. You know how to organize your life in such a way that it's really successful. So it could even be boredom is the only thing that's kind of letting you know it's time to upgrade. And maybe part of being really flamboyant and ready to stand out is that you know that you're kind of bored where you're at. And that's one of the ways that you're trying to break out of it. This is saying, remember to do unto others as you'd have done to yourself. You have strong beliefs that you might even feel ready to defend. Okay, so now it's getting revealed to us that you're very successful in what you're doing, but there is a defense, meaning you would defend how you're doing it, meaning there is an ego structure holding it up. So is that the need to be successful? Is that the need to feel like you have it all together, to feel organized, to feel like you could help someone if they needed, to feel like you have something worth celebrating? Like, are those all things, which, yes, I understand that those are wonderful things, but it's like those are things we want to achieve, experience, and then move on from, right? We can't just like stay in the place where we constantly celebrate, our accomplishments. Like, eventually we achieve it and then we go for something more. Let's see. This is something that's in your subconscious, And it's supposed to be like an ingredient keeping the existing operating system in place. Okay. So as you go through life in the way that you have, achieving all that you have, having the security that you have where you're at, you may feel like the thing that will keep you from being bored, the thing that will progress you, would be this $1 million idea. It's like you'll get an idea, it's an inspired idea, and that's what will bring you to the next level. I'm going to have to see if that's actually true, okay? It may be true. This is saying you might benefit from looking over what your weaknesses are. And these would likely be weaknesses that are from your family line. So it won't really stand out because probably the people that you grew up with also had that same weakness. And everyone has strengths and weaknesses. So this isn't like calling you out and saying you're weak. Obviously you are very successful in what you've been trying to achieve and reaching stability and all that. But like there's an ancestral passed along thing. And your ancestors are saying, like, we already know how that thing turns out if you don't upgrade it, so it's time to upgrade it. We will, by the end of this reading, get a good idea of what that could be. Remember, we've got this whole stack right here to look at for more part of the story, but it's kind of like your ancestors, you know, are wanting this upgrade for you because it breaks a pattern. And it's probably a more difficult one to break because within the surrounding society, it looks like you have achieved a lot and like that you wouldn't have anything to upgrade really necessarily. But this is something divine that's being seeded on earth by your upgrading. It's like everything that you learned is very valuable for where you're going. How do you relate to this upgrade? Yeah, so nothing in you is kind of consciously saying no thanks. You're a very positive person overall. You don't really feel like you have much to complain about or whatnot, right? So there's something within that though. Let's see. It's like if we jump to all that appreciation, that's a wonderful thing. The only indication here is that the golden rule and then 3 ways the opposite is also true. And so if there's some skepticism about people in general, about, it's like, do you want people to be constantly skeptical of you? So that one thing where you are skeptical of others could be part of the snag, could be the place where you would want to upgrade. Okay. Let's see, who are you being in this generally? Yeah, you've got a really good high vibration, a strong intuition. Maybe even just a really content energy, like you're waiting for that $1 million idea because you wouldn't know what else to do in the situation you're in. Like, you've got it. It's done. It's like, we did it. Great. And now, like, there would have to be some sort of great inspiration to push you past that level that you're at. Hold on, I'm going to take a sip. All right. Crown chakra, the unlimited self. And see, here we got the crown chakras being activated too. This is definitely a download. The unlimited self. So you are limited in that you are willing and able to creatively apply yourself, but you're still looking for that, like, inspired idea that pushes you there. And I want to read this book a little bit on this. Devotion, inner guidance, visionary, inspiration, fathoming beyond the mind, enlightenment, connection to the universe, and life force energy. The crown chakra is your link to the multidimensionality of your being, the seat of your soul. It gracefully connects you to the heavens. The infinity symbol of limitless appears within the unfolding petals and points to your most potent potential. Here you can delight in the divine strands of light that dance with us when we are aligned with spirit, purpose, and truth. Restore. Be present and flowing without rigid outcomes. Find more spaces in your life. Find your own way to meditate. When you are distracted, you are living on the surface level. Explore the state of flow and be receptive to the intuitive messages you may receive. The way for you to be most aligned with divine guidance and connection with spirit is the theme of this. So this $1 million idea that you would like to receive is going to come through this crown. And that's coming through your meditation practice. I closed it too soon. With presence, space in your life, your when you have it all figured out and you're in this routine of a well-oiled machine, it allows you to be on that surface level, right? Now we know that any skepticism about others, trusting others, although we did say that you could work with others. You're comfortable with helping others. Do you let others help you? Do you want to others as you'd have done to you? So, do you let people help you? Yeah, that's what I kind of feel like it's pointing at. Maybe you're the helper, and then you don't allow yourself to be receiving of that help. Because just think about your role in helping, and then like your role in receiving help, and what does that mean to you, and kind of dig in there deeper to see where that could be a weakness for you. You can also look at how it's a strength to being skeptical. Look at that, how is it a strength, but then look at how it could be holding you back. All right. You're very ripe and ready for this breakthrough. So I feel like this reading is just so good, like I mean, like, good for you to kind of break free from what it is. Like, all right, let's see. This is interesting because we had 6th house. Oh, no, that was 6th house was the thing on top. That's all. Limitless possibility. Going from being content in your day-to-day life to realizing that by being content, you cut yourself off from the limitless possibility. And now that you kind of see it from this angle, you won't be able to unsee it. Like, you're not going to forget that there's more. And maybe you've already not been able to forget that there's more. Maybe you've already known. That's why you've been looking for that inspired idea, because you know there's more. But like, this is saying, let's see what this is saying. Well, so far it's just saying to make sure that you can receive. Interesting. We've got share your view, canceled, stay home. Gemini. There's another way to look at things, and maybe you're looking at something from a different angle than someone else, and there really is something that you can offer, but also something that you could receive in considering their point of view. Maybe you haven't let yourself consider another point of view. And I'm just feeling into and asking about these two, so hold on one moment. Share your view. Alright, so say you've been filling your time with things to do, right? Because you have this full life. I feel like this is kind of saying, hold on here. There's some things for you to contemplate on a deeper level, so can you stop? Can you journal? Can you stay home? Can you cancel some plans to give yourself the time and space to actually be with yourself and share your own view with yourself? Contemplate those things on a deeper level. Yeah. Yes. And particularly your ability to receive help or ask for help. All right. So when we look at IC, that's what makes our operating system. So the operating system you have could be the one that was instilled in you from childhood, from your family home. Okay, and there is some pride here. And, pride was actually used by some parents to encourage us as children. Oh, mommy's so proud of you. Look what you did. And if you look at the scale of emotions in a vibrational way, pride would actually cap you before you get into the higher realm, and you would not be able to reach the crown chakra if you go with pride. And that's what your ancestors are saying too. They're saying, look, we did good on Earth, you're doing good on Earth, you're playing by Earth rules, but there's more. We have the capability to connect with the all, to access limitless possibilities, and there's something more that you are now prepared to do, given the way that you succeeded on Earth up till now, and the way that you can be downloaded with this inspired idea. Okay, so the fact that you may have trouble receiving help is only just a manifestation of the energy that you already carry. And the fact that you're not necessarily one to receive help would also mean that you're not able to necessarily be in the receiving mode. And being in the receiving mode is how you would receive the inspired idea. The download from your crown chakra requires you to be in the receiving mode. So if you see yourself in your day-to-day life not being able to receive, there's an indication of what your energy is. Now this could have to do with pride. And pride can be, oh, I'm self-important, and pride can be, oh, I'm just a victim, or pride can be, oh, I'm better than you, or it matters, or, it can be a lot of things. So it can be very subtle, it can be overt. But just in the way that our parents used it, with I'm proud of you, it can mean that we've invested a lot of our value and worth in the fact that we've achieved something. And even solving our own problems without help can be something that we take pride in. And it could be something where in the family we didn't talk about our problems, or we brushed it under the carpet, or we pretended everything was okay on the surface. Things like that. Or maybe you've learned that if you show any weakness, it can be used against you. Or you could be canceled. So there's some sort of lack of confidence where pride has actually taken the place of it. And it's from your upbringing. Like maybe you only got that appreciation for who you are when you achieved something for caretakers to be proud of. When in actuality, the whole process can be honored, right? As many times as it took you to succeed at doing that thing, you failed a lot first. And all those failures are part of the process. And it's all to be honored, right? Like my child, I honor my child in the whole process that it takes for them to learn something, fail through something, and achieve something. To me, there's no variation in how much I love them through each of those steps. But if I were to use that parenting method where I reinforce them through feeling proud, then they may get the impression that the only time I'm really interested in what they're doing is when they achieve the thing. So this could set them up for a lifetime of aiming to achieve in order to be appreciated, in order to get that feeling like they're important. So do you see what I'm saying here? This is where the little chink is in your armor of the operating system. So finding the ways that you can let that go within self are going to be helpful in escaping this and moving to that upgraded way of operating. So we got swindle. You may be lying to yourself about this, about how content you are, about whether or not you're fearful of these things. Okay, another thing that may be going on is there may be someone from home life, right, from your childhood home, that you really did want to bond with more, connect with more, and you might be inclined to imitate their energy, feel what they feel kind of stuff. Like if they only give themselves permission to feel good about themselves when they achieve something, you might also follow in that path. It could have been that way. It could have not even been a conscious thing where you assessed the situation and decided. It could have just been an absorption below the level of your awareness, is what this is saying. So this limitless possibilities, Gemini, it's your birthright here to create something new. Where you may have been focused on results. Actually, your imagination is one of the doorways, right? Like this is all etheric stuff. The imagination is how you access it. I had one time a guy was talking to me about how to connect with his mother who was passed on. And the advice I got to give him was that he was a very logical person. Like his mother was kind of like telling me, he's a very logical person. Like she had passed on or whatnot, but like he's a very logical person. And so I was saying this to him and he was like, yeah. And I was like, he's like, but I meditate just so I can connect with her. And he was really hurt, like she had only died 6 months prior. And he missed her and he wanted her, his mom, and that, And so what I advised him to do was to, in his meditation, create a room with his imagination. And then I explained, I said, your imagination is the tool that your mother will use to connect with you. So create a room in your imagination, maybe, a rocking chair for her to sit in or whatever, and let her use the tool of your imagination to communicate with you. And because he was a very naturally logical person, like, somehow, like, he just needed that permission, right? Because if that's not the natural way that his mind would operate, and he would always doubt it if he just used his imagination without any reassurance, maybe. All right, so there may have been family members where you might actually feel like, oh, well, it's not, I didn't take the path of my family members. I actually went in the opposite direction. I knew that that was the wrong way to operate, right? You might be a person who said, no way, I'm not doing what my family did. And you might have even parted ways with them. And this is kind of saying, like, whether we do what our parents do or we choose to do the opposite of what they do, either way, we would be operating from the effects of what we went through with them. So to neutralize that energy, so you have free range and you're not using all your energy to go in the opposite direction or unconsciously going in the same direction, to eliminate both of those things, that's where you want to acknowledge. So that would be acknowledging any of the discomforts or the things that you didn't like or the things that you wanted to get rid of or you didn't approve of, or acknowledging the things that you are doing and why you're doing them, either way. Validate all that why, and then accept that it's the case, and then love the part of you who feels a thing about it. Now, this would also stem into why you might not trust people to help you, because that might be tied to some of the reasons why you chose to operate in this way, right? Especially if you had parents that would humiliate you if you didn't live up to the standard or whatever. Instead of honoring the process of failure, maybe you got yelled at or ridiculed or humiliated. There's all kinds of reasons which could spur you wanting to lie to yourself about how you're doing, right? Like if I got in trouble for failing, or if I got humiliated by my parents when I failed, then next time I fail, I'm definitely not going to be focused on that. I'll probably gloss right over it and not let myself see it because I don't want to relive that humiliation. So lying to self comes from those kind of need to survive. So this is saying, like, reconcile with the version of you that did have those experiences and make sure you're good with how you felt during those, and that those parts of you can be with you. And then from there, can you start to let people in, trust people, let people help you, just as an experiment. Another thing you can do is just like research how to put yourself in the receiving mode. There's all kinds of things, but basically it's feminine energy. So this wounding that we're talking about, that's kind of anchoring in the operating system you have, is around mother or feminine energy. And it could be the way feminine energy was treated in front of you, or how feminine energy acted towards you. Okay. Yeah, because you had that moon energy. So whether you're good with it or not, you do have the feminine energy trying to get your attention. But it also might have you fearful of acting out in a certain way because maybe of fear of ridicule, or fear of not getting it right, or fear of, just many things, I guess. It's like whatever you have in place to navigate with, you feel like it's serving you well. Look at this, appreciation and then appreciated. I'm kind of brought to this moment where, like, I can hear my mother yelling about not being appreciated. Sorry to laugh and stuff, but it's like to yell at somebody about not appreciating you it's very narcissistic, because it's like, actually, if we give without expectation, that's a much more pure way. And especially with our children, there's no conditional love or conditional providing of a home to your children. It's not like you better appreciate everything I do for you. It's like I gave birth to you, and it is my duty to provide for you. You know, like I personally have been through lessons, we can call them lessons or experiences that I learned from, about having a child who couldn't show appreciation. And it was such a big gift to me, because my child was suffering with an ailment and wasn't not in a position to be thinking of being thankful. Like, it was this, like, there was psychosis, and there was, like, you know, survival and all kinds of things that took precedence over my child showing me appreciation. So was I gonna, like, stop doing for this child because he couldn't appreciate it during that time? No, of course not. And he still wouldn't appreciate it today, and that was still okay with me. There's no part of me that regrets it, right? But, like, I've definitely been subject to a conversation with my mother, you know, with her feeling underappreciated. And it's like, well, what would a child have to do to make sure that you feel appreciated? Well, actually, that's very unhealthy. That's a very unhealthy dynamic. Like, we have to appreciate ourselves. It's not our kids' job to validate us as people. You know? So there's something here going on with that. It's like some expectation or some needing to be appreciated, and it was modeled to you, perhaps. It may have been modeled to you. So this is probably going to vary in the degree that you're experiencing it, and how much and why and all that, right? So just take what's useful to you. But I think we've kind of covered it as far as, like, where you could work through something in meditation to help yourself upgrade your operating system. Oh, this is that card I was looking for before. It's like the Knight of Wands stands with their purpose known and the willingness to proceed, and just ready to overcome the barriers. And I think that's you for sure. It's showing up in reverse because you didn't know what the barrier was, because it was unclear, and that's because it's this moon energy. But you have the skills and the drive and the willingness to overcome it once you know what it is. So, yay. And, you know, if there's part of you that would be afraid of this busyness that you'll come into after you break free of this, and then you get really much more busy with what you're doing, because the next phase of your life requires you to be, make sure you clean up anything about that, right? It's like, imagine if you're going to go into being busy and you're always worried about getting appreciated. No, more like, let's have an operating system that runs on, is this in the highest good of me and all, where you consider those things so that you're never running yourself into the ground or on empty or with some expectation. You know, you're always dealing with yourself while knowing yourself. And then you'll be able to easily navigate that new space that you're ready to move into. Okay. So, pick one. This is your reading. Just take what's helpful to you, leave the rest, and perhaps we'll see you in a future one. And just so you know, not that it matters, I do appreciate that you're willing to do this work for yourself. I really do. Thanks for being here. Okay. All right, pick two. You chose where? If you didn't watch the intro, you might want to. we're looking at what can you look at to help you upgrade your operating system. Okay. I'm going to use a little book on this. So, the past, armadillo. Tough, difficult, firm. Okay, so you may have felt a little bit stuck in the past, or in this operating system you're in now. Presently, you are shifting, adapting. You may be going through a lot of emotions with that shift, but things feel a lot better. Abundant, lavish, generous, it says. Okay. Let's do this gel pens. For the future, crafty, visionary, idealistic. Wow, look at you. It kind of feels like, according to these cards, that you're already really in the process of upgrading your operating system. So let's see what the cards have to say. I think you do really trust life. It looks like your operating system is kind of in that place where you have faith. You understand that things are happening for you. Okay. That's okay. Sometimes, even if we're in that space, to have a reading can kind of confirm that for us, or solidify it, reassure. We'll see what else. Choosing heaven. Choosing heaven on earth. Woohoo! Flow state. Okay, so these are about the upgraded operating system, but if you're not already there, you're definitely in process of getting there, and you have what it takes to get there. Let's see what else this has to say. Empathetic starseed, energetic sovereignty, absorbing what's not yours. So this may be the recognition that, there might be part of you that has to process through what it feels like to leave certain people behind, or situations behind, or kind of stuff like that. Let's look at more. How does the old operating system allow you to relate to people? I think you must have been in transition and in a space of growing and expanding your awareness for quite some time, because we got forgive yourself, and it's like that means you've been in the process of doing that, forgiving yourself, really loving yourself in all the places that you need to be loved, and in a grounded way. It's been very grounded for you, and you're also very much in touch with the earth and nature. You have a really solid foundation, and I think that you are the weaver of the web that you live in. I just heard You may just want to know where you're driving to or where this is driving you to. And then the answer that I heard was also like, it's where you want to go. Let's see what else we have here. So the operating system that we're talking about that you already had, which is supposed to be the old one, already very loving, giving, gathering, sharing, open-hearted, I would say. Live your bliss. Inspiring others. So you've probably been sharing and talking about your experiences. Been in touch with your emotions, allowing them. Been very patient. This says legacy, and so what do I want to say about legacy? Perhaps just that what you are doing is kind of paving the way for your future generations. Especially you're already in the position of inspiring others. So others are seeing what you're doing, and it's establishing you in this position of being seen as who you are, what you're doing, how you're living. You are an example to others, and you are being seen. How are you relating to the old operating system? It says foolish when it's in reverse, and I feel like that means like where you're in this place of able to forgive yourself for things. It's also like, I feel like honoring yourself as like the innocent child who just lived life as it was presented to you. I know not all of these cards are on screen, so it just is what it is. Chance is but a name for a law not recognized. Yeah, I do think that you're very much in touch with your creation. That is your life. Navigating using laws of the universe. Following your inner urge, your curiosity, and your divinely guided intuitive prompts. Advice cards are creative expression and gentle. And I feel like you have that already. You already know this. A gentle person is one who forgives self. Who are you being in this? Ooh, you're so present, huh? I mean, I'm excited to just be able to like witness your energy here through this reading. I mean, there's not a lot of advice here because it's like you aren't really seeking advice. I think you must know that this is like your canvas. This life is your canvas. Okay. Home. This is the card I want to read from the book. It's the Beyond Lemuria guidebook. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Heart-based presence, grounding, finding home within yourself wherever you are. The body as a temple for the soul. Travel, finding family wherever you go. Ooh. Occupying yourself, connecting to your unwavering infinite depths and the collective oneness. Just feels good, right? So the divinatory meaning of this card invites you to align with your temple space. Consider all the amazing things your body does and how you effortlessly move through reality. Become aware of the many gifts that come from a deep sense of truly occupying yourself. Often very intuitive souls exist within the upper chakras and may struggle with the density of humaning. You may not feel like you are from here, but as though you are more accustomed to navigating a world with different parameters. At this time on Earth, it is a blessing to have the vessel of a body. It is an opportunity to make a difference, so celebrate it. You have dreams and visions and may yearn to float around in more etheric realms. But it is when we are fully grounded and present in our bodies that we can actualize these ideas and make a difference. Be grounded, find your home, as just like a tree, the deeper our roots, the higher we can reach into the heavens. Kind of floating. I have to ground myself too. Maybe that's your energy, just feeling that floatiness, going through life very much trusting, and more of a challenge to even just kind of be that groundedness. And like, where do we have? Maybe it was in the last reading, but something about like just like grounding here what it is that you are. Okay. Let's see what these have to say. And I have a feeling that these are going to kind of tell the story of the past in a way, but let's see. Actually, I want to clear these first. Driven to alchemy. See, this says you have options, and then that card that you got was the Two of Wands in reverse. So the Two of Wands makes me feel like you have a plan, you're going towards, like, yeah, there's another option, a road that you're not taking, but you're going towards this, and that's in reverse. So you are very much in that space of, like, awareness of the limitless possibilities. We had that card about maybe absorbing other people's stuff a bit. Just like, or feeling burdened by the energetics around you. So I don't feel like you'd play it like you're a victim to other people's energy or anything. But I think that's one thing you had to learn, maybe, about being human and being on Earth. Is to become energetically sovereign, to give yourself the good stuff that you thrive on, and to choose to let go of the more dense stuff that's sort of like been repeating here on Earth for a long time. Like taking that and alchemizing it. And being completely committed to doing so. Maybe even having had to encounter experiences of exploitation from those that you love, those that you considered a brotherhood. And that may have been a karmic experience, meaning an experience of your soul wanting to come in and alchemize that kind of energy. But that could leave some remnants of feeling really sad. Maybe it's the witnessing of other people being exploited that could affect you. You may have had to even learn about the energy of lust. So even though that card was talking about how you're more comfortable in the upper realms, these are some more like dense energies that you would have had to experience and traverse and alchemize out of, and gain a bigger understanding of, and maybe even share about, and maybe even celebrate the overcoming of. Entitlement might have been something else that you needed to alchemize, or that led to a challenge for you, and that would have come from past life connection. And I can sort of relate to that, where I came into the understanding that I had incarnated with other souls that I had connection with and from outside of Earth, and I did have expectations and sort of entitlement on how that would work, meaning expecting them to work with me on something and entitled to that happening. And so I had to have a little like reality check on that. So some of these lessons, were like dispelling the innocence, or seemingly doing so, but actually upgrading to a more free state, right? Because who we are is love, and who we are doesn't need to possess someone else or control somebody else, and who we are doesn't rely on somebody else to do anything particular. Maybe it was hard to see the recreation of the same old patterns from other lifetimes over and over again, and maybe hard to see other people living in that as well. And you could have experienced some shunning based on how you chose to live your life, and maybe people's inability to relate to how you were doing that. You might have even found yourself devoted to something that was exploitative of you. Like I got a glimpse of like the army as an example. It could have been a marriage. It could have been, anything where you committed yourself, and then it turned out that it took a lot more than you expected to give. But I don't have any doubt that you would have extracted the gold from it and alchemized anything that you experienced from it, given what we've already seen in the oracle cards. And perhaps all of this is part of like coming to complete an achievement that you wanted to participate in, based on what you want to create here, right, with your canvas, and maybe having missed the opportunity to do so in another lifetime. Maybe because you took a lot of time devoted to someone else. Like there was a time earlier on in my journey where I kept getting the advice to leave somebody behind that was a friend to me, and I really enjoyed her company. But I was advised and then eventually given a reading that described this experience where in every lifetime we met up, and in every lifetime she held me back. And all that meant was that I devoted a lot of my time to trying to assist her to advance instead of just advancing myself. You know, and when I say advance, I mean advancing past my limitations that were pressing on me and ready to be alchemized. Okay, so you may have something similar like that. There may have been times where, like, the whole thing was intimidating. And at that point, right, you have to kind of reel yourself into the moment and go forward with what's in front of you instead of letting the weight of the world be on your shoulders. And that's part of that sovereignty, energetic sovereignty here. It does seem like this situation where there were issues in relationship with others or with getting yourself committed to something or feeling like you were entitled to something was something that was repeated either within this lifetime or another. But that in itself served as inspiration to you, right? Maybe to even formulate this new way of living that you're upgrading to already before this reading even came about. It's pretty obvious that you've been upgrading. And like those experiences that we've talked about here are great experiences to inspire someone to be energetically sovereign and to understand the drawbacks to those kind of dynamics. And that sometimes these challenges can actually really serve us. That's the thing that perpetuates us towards the alchemy and the freedom. So it feels like this higher view, where you've come from, really assisted you with the alchemy of the density that you did experience. And I don't mean to make light of any of the stuff that you've been through. I'm sure it was some stuff. And it seems like you've really put yourself in this position to be really worthy of the focus that people put on you for inspiration as well. And you know how powerful that can be because you have used it yourself. Yay. Yeah, so even though you really do flourish in those higher realms, you have also done what it takes to establish yourself in stability here on the earth. Where? On the earth and in your heart. Very nice. Alright, we came out of focus and now we're in focus, so remember, it's just information to reflect on. Only take what's helpful to you. And perhaps I'll see you in a future reading. I picked 3. So, if you didn't watch the intro, you might want to take a peek, but we're talking about what you can look at to help you upgrade your operating system. And I'm going to start with these cards. I'm looking at the little booklet that comes with them. Aggressive, threatening, contentious is the old operating system. Sorry to giggle. That doesn't sound fun. But it may not be overt, right? Like there may have been subconscious things that were kind of with the tone of that you might even not be aware of. But let's see what else. Present, though, trusting your gut, looking at your intuition, and following your instincts. And then future. Cozy, safe, and secure. Interesting. So it kind of feels like you might have been transitioning already, and you're maybe trying to get comfortable in the operating system you're in now. But let's see. Let's see what else. You won't be able to see all these cards on the board. I think maybe it was always the case, but you're very dedicated and focused on following your passion. What's important to you matters, and that's what you're willing to focus on. What you feel strongly about. It's interesting. This card says Earth pulsing, pulse of mother, slow down, time in nature. And I literally just went outside to put my feet on the earth before doing this reading. So I want to say this, and I don't, okay, I'm just going to say it. There's only so much your angels can do. You also have to feed yourself the right ingredients, you know, like give yourself the resources that you need, like that time in nature. Like, while you're passionately driven, this is saying, like, also it is important that you're taking time to give yourself what you need. And I'm just flashed to someone I know who's been having a reaction to having consumed too much alcohol, and now their body's having this like detox, a hard detox. Even though they've been not drinking, they're still vomiting days later. And I feel like that too, like respect what you're putting in your body as well, and let your body detox from things that may not be working for you anymore. How does the old operating system allow you to relate to people? Mostly you've been sovereign. You've been able to take responsibility for yourself and not really using any projections or blaming. Not really expecting of others. Just maybe very self-focused. Now, maybe you got self-focused and really independent and driven towards this passion because it's what kind of got you out of this quarrel kind of energy, this heavy, dense kind of disagreement energy of the past. And there could have been a relationship that was really dense, that was kind of solidifying and giving you all that trouble. Could have been a business partner or like a romantic partner, but there could have been a lot of fighting or a lot of disagreements or a lot of push and pull, power struggles, and it could have been like a codependency of the other person where they were wanting more from you, or you were kind of more to yourself. This is saying calm is not a weakness. You have that, right? Because you are self-contained. Now, that might be a coping mechanism, but that is serving you. This is giving you recognition of that. Planning and preparation. You do like to plan and prepare, huh? So that's part of what's holding up the old operating system. There's this merging of really being really grounded and being really open to that divine guidance, right? It's like that divine guidance is just starting to bloom within you. And what was underlying the old way was control issues of, like, instead of being in a loving partnership, there was more of like possessing each other. And controlling issues stem from feeling out of control and not being able to predict how you're going to handle a certain situation. So you want to kind of keep your world a little smaller, keep things in control so that you understand how to navigate. So it indicates that there were lots of chaos in your foundation of your old operating system, which on the one hand allowed you to learn to be calm even in the midst of chaos, which is a wonderful skill that you now have, even as you leave behind that old way, which is requiring you to kind of slow down and to use that calmness and start really taking care of yourself, because I imagine that old way, with all the chaos, was really taking a lot of your energy and what could have been put towards taking care of your own needs, not just passionately driven needs, but practical, dietary needs. As above, so below, as below, so above. Which is kind of saying, like, what you see outside of you is also inside of you. Your surroundings, the chaos in your surroundings were matching the chaos that you had below the surface. So even if you were calm on the surface, there were part of you that was like a match to that chaotic situation. And some of that is like the control issues, right? So if we are in need of controlling a situation, there's also going to be like a opposite reaction, which is the chaos that will ensue because we can't really control a situation. What we resist persists. So if we resist that chaos, then it could kind of amp up and be there even louder as we try to avoid it. Discernment. Discernment isn't judging, and I think you kind of got this already, right? Like, by being very focused on self, you've learned like that you're not necessarily counting on people, but you're also not necessarily invested in judging them. Like, you're discerning probably how you can navigate a situation with them. You might want to write some letters that you don't send, or just journal to kind of see yourself more thoroughly and more like I guess thoroughly is the only word that I can come up with on that, because you're being asked to really pay attention to the details, because even though you are in the process of coming out of the old operating system already, this is kind of saying, okay, well, as you're doing this, there's going to be a lot of details. We're not really going to touch on all the details here. We're going to touch on a couple things, but there are more details, and you can find them by maybe a journal entry or writing the letters you don't send, because that's when you're going to really see yourself. How are you relating to the old operating system? So it was like you were taking risks and you knew it. Like whatever you were engaged in, even if it was chaotic and quarrelsome, even if you were partnered up with something that was a little bit risky, I think you looked at it like it was an adventure. Like you weren't going to be bored. Like you were willing to take some risks and explore. It's like you might have that. In human design, there is a incarnation cross. No, not incarnation cross. What is it called? A profile. 1-3. The 1-3 profile learns by trial and error. So those people are always testing the boundaries, are always pushing and taking risks, and trial and error is how they learn. And you might be like a personality like that, where this was just like par for the course, kind of. Like you were going to find something out about the situation by being in it, by exploring it, by being an adventurer in it. There are free human design calculators online if you are interested in looking at your human design. Who are you being? You might be resistant of spending time alone that you really need. You have a lot of tools to defend yourself and to handle any difficult situations or challenges, and that's all from the trial and error that you've been through. But like, you're moving to a time of more peace because you've learned through the trial and error that there's a lot of discomfort and lack of peace and sort of like detriment to your well-being that comes with that territory, right? So you've learned, and now it's time to adjust to what you've learned. And you are very well equipped with all what have you learned, though. So it's kind of like, say you have a toolbox, right? Like, for instance, I do oracle readings, and sometimes I go to events. And what I've learned is I don't necessarily need to take every card deck that I have to the event that I'm doing. I just take the ones that I feel drawn to take, like the ones that are going to serve me the best to give the best messages at that event. So it's kind of like you have all these tools now. You know how things work. You know how to handle yourself in all these situations. But instead of like remaining hyper vigilant to the situation or remaining on guard or keeping that guard up, or, you now have to discern what is useful for you to carry forward. It's like if you've adopted certain coping mechanisms and ways of operating in certain circumstances, which comes from like a warlike surroundings, then some of those aren't going to serve you going forward if you're moving into a more peaceful state of mind, where part of you may worry that you'll be a bit bored because this chaos was very exciting. Sorry, I'm just trying to get it to focus. And in some ways, this chaos kept things exciting. But now your excitement is going to come more from a place of the limitless possibilities that exist, that you are equipped to go forward in because you are brave, right? Because you have handled yourself in a lot of situations that were very difficult. But there's more for you outside of that realm of operating where you have to be focused on self-sufficient. There's a more like there's more love and relationship for you to for there to be had, like real connection and stuff, which you can open yourself up to, which will be an adventure in itself that you still will need to learn from, and that you will not be in control of. So one of the things that you are letting go of in this transition you're going through to upgrade your operating system is the the want to control factors. And this sometimes manifests as going to the same place every day because that's comfortable for you, you know what to expect. Eating the same thing every day, only shopping at the same store, taking the same route to work. There's little ways that you can challenge your need to control by like changing one of those things. Just changing it up, and going to a brand new place where you're completely in new territory, where it's one of your old patterns or abilities to control a situation isn't going to be running things. And also this is saying that not necessarily to spend all your time doing that, because time in nature and time alone might be something you resist, but is very much beneficial for you. You may have even been controlling things to the degree that you've been blocking your heart from being opened, because you have been in such a warlike state in the past, and to varying degrees for different people. Your heart isn't inclined to be open, and it needs the space to open. So in nature, where you're safe, at home where you're safe, in your own space, in your own energy, without the need to always be planning and strategizing and protecting yourself. Get into the spaces of that so that you can let this heart open again. Because this open heart is where you're going to be able to follow those inner urges. Not just the passionate urges, but the curiosity. And that's going to lead you into the next leg of your journey, the upgraded operating system. Let's read the book on this card. Reclaim your energy. Yeah. So if you've been partnered up with somebody, or, just in a battle state, this has taken a lot of your energy. So you can call all your energy back to you. And if you've been thinking about it a lot and reliving a lot of the situation, which it can happen, like CPTSD happens from these kind of states that we get to be operating in. So what we call that is flashbacks. If you're having flashbacks where you incessantly relive pieces of the past where you think it could have gone better, you wish it went different, like these are things that you got to start like taking your energy back from. So you got to start resolving those. So write those down and work through those in that way. Let's see what it has to say about reclaiming your energy. Recatapultation, owning your power. Where you put your energy is your choice. Overcoming triggers through self-awareness. Energy vampires. Reclaiming your soul fragments. Observing the observer. Shifting victim mentality. Okay? Yeah, I'm sure as I say all those things that they're real, you can kind of grasp what it's pointing at for you, which is a lot of things. A lot of different angles and details about this situation have to be looked at and worked through. The divination meaning of this card encourages you to be aware of where your energy is going. If you are not at your optimal energy level, it invites you to consider the core of why this may be. You have the power to own your energy and choose where you direct it. Look at situations that trigger drama and anxiety to reduce energy loss. Detach from environments or people that are not healthy for you. It is up to you to make the shift. Victim mentality is no help, so realize that you have the power to transform your life and choose healing and self-empowerment. It's time to kickstart the upward spiral to abundant energy and soul presence. It's kind of like your soul is saying, come home to me now, come home to me now. You did that part, that was important. You have a lot of tools in your toolbox, skills, understandings, and you'll need those later. But right now is the time to soften and allow yourself to come home to me. And that's your heart speaking. And if there's a part of you that feels victimized by the situation, it's okay to be present with the part of you that feels like a victim. You know, there is valid reasons why you should feel victimized, and it's okay to be present with those, because you want to take the part of you that feels whatever it feels about that situation with you. So you got to be present with it so it knows it can come. And it's kind of like that part of you might be scared and might even be mad at you for letting yourself get into that situation. But being present with that part of you and understanding that part of you allows you to be kind of like the parent to that part of you and let that part of you earn or see that you are trustworthy. Like, when I've retrieved parts of myself, sometimes I had said, like, all right, if you don't want to come with me, then do you want to just, like, stay in my energy to watch how I live so that you can see if I'm trustworthy? You know? And it's like that little version of me that was a child who feels so scared and let down by me because I abandoned her in some feeling that she was stuck in that I chose not to let her feel and not to pay attention to her feeling. She doesn't know if she can trust me because I abandoned her so many times and I acted like it wasn't important to feel that part. And once I want to, she's like, can I trust that? And it's like, well, why don't you watch me and see if you think I'm trustworthy? And that worked for me. It's kind of like having a little conversation as if the hurt part of you is a 5-year-old. And kind of like really nurturing that part of you. With the softness that you are opening yourself up to. Like that softness, you know, it hasn't been appropriate in the war-like states that you've been in the chaos situations. It has been more difficult to have an open heart in those situations, but this softness is totally appropriate for the quiet moments that you have with yourself and the time spent alone in nature. And those places welcome you being soft. And let's look at what these have to say. So 5 weeks might have been a relevant time period for you. We already said that in the intro. Oh, very interesting that you got Lemuria, and this is from the Beyond Lemuria deck when it's talking about reclaiming your energy. And this is pulling everything back, just like imagine your energy is still connected to you and you can just pull it back to you. Doesn't it feel good when you do that? So because of all the things you've been through, you've actually revealed to yourself that you have this special talent for something that you would not have discovered about yourself had you not had these experiences that you've had. But because the experiences that you've had were ultimately part of the operating system that you had, meaning as a result of the home you grew up in when you were born, or how you grew up, or, you know, whatever that circumstances were surrounding that, because you adopted that as the operating system, it's like, oh, I lost my train of thought. Oh, because of that, it's going to take your free will to upgrade it. Even that book said it. It's not going to happen without you doing it. It's like, it's not, no one's going to come save you from this. Like, you are the one who's going to actually make these changes. And that you may not be aware of it, but you are capable of doing it. And the parts of you that don't know that just need your love, right? Because you were traumatized at times in your life when you didn't know what to do, when you were too young, when it didn't make sense, when you were overwhelmed. So those parts of you are stuck in that state of mind. And those parts of you don't have the tools that you have now. So you're essentially like bringing those parts into the wholeness of who you are with all the tools you have now. Like, if you're one of these people who are navigating life with trial and error as your operating system, because that's how it was planned out for you, it's important to make sure you're not beating yourself up for making mistakes, right? Like, That's really, 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 really important. It's very brave to go through life with that willingness to fumble. Awareness to emotional body. That was what that says. So you've really been preparing yourself to go towards a destiny that is unfolding for you still, that is hidden from you only in the fact that there's certain emotions that you've been reluctant to feel, and that when you feel them, they will no longer be filtering your view and you'll be able to see more clearly. But it will take your free will to be willing to be present with your emotional body. Yeah, we got presence now. And this leads to a breakthrough for you. So part of this is leaving some things behind. Some things aren't coming with you. The things that are not lending towards your nutrition, your dietary needs, right? Like, some things are not coming with you, whether it be partnerships or certain things that you've been ingesting, dynamics and relating, control tactics. So if there's part of you that knows something's not healthy for you, but you still hold on to it, that's something where you need to look into it more. That's something you need to write to yourself about and figure out. So I believe that it's like putting this choice in front of you. It's saying, look, there's some dishonesty that you've been dealing with, and you've been maybe like putting up with it, maybe because you know that you're kind of self-centered and not really getting to those depths places of relating with others and connecting with others. So what you've been attracting might be also others that are relating in those ways, shallow kind of ways, and who use war tactics and control tactics and all that, and might even straight up lie to you. So it's really like just reiterating that old operating system that you're leaving behind, it was your choice to do so. And here's reminders of the reasons that you're doing it: because you were miserable, and because there was dishonesty in your relationships. You do have something here to accomplish. And it's not just for your own highest good, it's for the highest good of all. This is it's like you will be an example of something. Now we've got 1 month as a time period, so 4 to 5 weeks. You might have to change your location, spend time in different locations, but time in nature for sure, while you're going through this transition. And if you have a birthday coming up, this is referencing your birthday as a time where maybe it's in 5 weeks or a month to 5 weeks, but it's like that's going to be a time for this to kind of culminate. Interesting. You know, timing's a difficult one because we do have free will, and this is very much dependent on your free will. And it is saying slow down, so there's no rush here, but I do believe that it is very important for you to make progress and for you to like decide that for yourself if that's what you want. Because I think that if you don't, I do think that we're talking about this now because it is relevant to you now. Okay? So I think that you could definitely go another round in the way that you are living in the old operating system. But if you want to, you can also acknowledge that you're actually up in the process of upgrading, and that it's kind of like self-care and you time, and that you're kind of putting yourself into the self-care bubble, into a comfort zone where you can actually unpack and see which tools you're going to need for the trip forward, and which parts of you need to collect and love up and get comfortable with where you're going, which is an upgraded version of you, which is a version of you that might raise your standards on how you behave and whether or not you would indulge in things like fighting and arguing and aggression and like side eye and like strategy and all that, right? It's like there's a softer side of you awaiting the space to be let out. And it's always been there. It's just that you were using this operating system that didn't value it for a while. But in order to go towards your destiny, it's like you're becoming aware of it and allowing it and letting go of the things that wouldn't allow it. Like within a partnership, you might have been able to see the parts of you that were the reasons why you wouldn't allow that softer side, right? Like if there was someone abusive of the softer, more vulnerable side of you, or if you found yourself abusing somebody else's softer side, then those are clues about where you might have some boo-boos to clean up and love in yourself by acknowledging, validating, accepting, and loving the part of you who felt the thing that was willing to participate in it. Okay? You're going into unknown territory. So instead of looking at that like intimidating and something to avoid based on the operating system you have, because that's how you grew up and that's been, how you've survived, and so that feels like you're functioning dysfunction. Instead, look at it like that sense of adventure that you have and that willingness to fail that you have and that trial and error way about you is going to come in real handy as you upgrade. Because there are going to be times where you go, oh, I was trying to change my habit on that. Or, oh, no, I know I can do that better. Let me try again. Even in conversation with somebody. Like that in itself is so refreshing, right? Say you're talking to somebody and they're trying to like raise their own standard on themselves and they catch themselves right in the moment. You don't think lesser of that person. That's someone that you're like, oh, cool. You're just being a regular, vulnerable human with me in this moment. And it's very refreshing. Thank you. I'm a regular, vulnerable human too. And if you're dealing with people who don't allow you to be a regular, vulnerable human because they take advantage of your vulnerabilities, throw things back in your face, try to humiliate you for things that you haven't quite gotten right on the first try, then that's where you're being given that option to cut it out. Raise your standard on who you even allow yourself to invest in. Not that those people don't have, worthwhile traits and things, but it may be time to let go of any, anything that's kind of mistreating you. It's in the highest good of all, right? Because like we don't want to enable people to mistreat us. I've been in a situation where I needed to take space from a family member whom I love very much and whom I want to support and be there for and love unconditionally. But as this person kept violating my standard for how I agree to be treated, I had to take space, because if I didn't, then it would wrongly teach this person that it's okay to treat people that way, and it's not. And I don't want to be an enabler of that, no matter how much I love this person. And I will not allow myself to be mistreated. So there are boundaries or agreements that someone has to agree to when they're when they're relating to me, and mistreating me is one that I will not agree to. And it has nothing to do with my love for them. It has to do with my love for me. And anything I do in the highest good of me is going to automatically be in the highest good of them, because once I put up that boundary and say no more, then they have to either go away from me and find out when they try to treat someone else like that they don't like it either, and maybe eventually check themselves, or maybe they'll check themselves right away. Maybe they'll want to look at themselves right away, but that's not my business. I don't have control over them, and I don't have expectations of them. All I have control over is me. And so that's another thing. It's like, if you're upgrading from control issues and you need to place that control somewhere, focus it on what you do have control over, which is you, which is how you allow yourself to operate in the standards you allow yourself to engage in, whether it's how you're treated or how you treat somebody else. And it's most definitely like how you treat your emotional body and how willing you are to be present with your emotions. And if it's not a birthday coming up for you, if that didn't pertain to you, then it could just be the end of a cycle. Like, you're kind of coming to the end of this cycle of where it will be. So what you're doing now is like tying up the loose ends, and it's saying, like, give yourself the space to do that. Spend the time by yourself in nature. You can do it. Okay. Wonderful. Remember, it's just information to reflect on, so just take what's helpful to you and leave the rest.